They say nothing, but you can feel it. A shift, a silence, a sudden change in the room. You walk in, and the air thickens. Smiles become strained. Conversations stutter, then fade. Eyes glance, then dart away. No one says it outright, but you know it. You feel it in your bones. You are different. Not because you're loud, not because you're trying to be, but because you carry something that can't be faked. Presence. And that terrifies people. It's not arrogance. It's not an attitude. It's not anything you're doing. It's everything you're being. Carl Jung had a word for this. Not aura in the mystical, glowing sense, but energy, psychological force, a silent language your unconscious speaks, louder than words. In this video, we're going to explore the 13 powerful signs that your aura is silently overwhelming to others. Not because you're broken, but because you're rare. And in a world built on illusion and comfort, your realness makes people deeply uncomfortable. But first, let me ask you something. Have you ever been told you're too much, when all you did was be honest? That isn't a flaw. That's the mark of someone whose energy is confronting, whose soul reflects back the masks others desperately cling to. And no one taught this better than Carl Jung. So let's start at the beginning. 1. Your honesty feels like intensity. You're not trying to go deep. It's just who you are. You speak from the heart. You listen with your whole being. You don't sugarcoat, because truth matters more than approval. But is that true? It cuts. Not because you wield it like a weapon, but because most people have spent years building walls to avoid it. So they call you intense, dramatic, too much. But what they really mean is, you made me feel something I wasn't ready to feel. Jung believed this energy, the confrontation with truth, isn't verbal. It's energetic. You walk into a space, and your very existence forces people to reckon with themselves. That's not intensity. That's integrity. 2. Small talk. Drains you. You try. You really do. You smile, you nod, you say polite things. But inside, it feels suffocating. How's the weather? Seen that show? Crazy day, right? You're not rude. You're just disconnected. Because none of it means anything. According to Jung, those deeply in touch with their unconscious, their shadow, their truth, are naturally repelled by surface-level masks. And small talk is just that, a mask, a ritual that keeps us from going deeper. Your aura says what your words don't. Let's talk about something real. But it really makes people uncomfortable, so they retreat, or worse, label you antisocial, when in truth you're just allergic to pretending. 3. You're a confession magnet strangers pour their hearts out. Friends turn to you when they're breaking. People whisper things to you they've never told anyone else, and you didn't ask for it. Why? Because your energy feels safe. Not just friendly, safe. Jung said certain people unconsciously carry the archetype of the healer. You don't need credentials, your stillness, your presence, your gaze. It all says, you can be real here. But there's a price. People unload, but rarely ask how you're doing. You hold space for others, yet often feel unseen yourself. This is the loneliness of deep presence, being surrounded by emotion, but rarely touched by connection. 4. Eye contact becomes a battle. You don't mean to make people uncomfortable. You just look them in the eyes, and they look away. Not because you're aggressive, not because you're invasive, but because they feel seen. Jung believed that when someone has integrated the shadow, the parts we usually deny, they become mirrors, and mirrors don't lie. So your gaze becomes a confrontation. Not of you, of them. They flinch, they withdraw. Not because you're wrong, but because your presence refuses to participate in their illusion. 5. Seeing you trigger reactions. Without saying a word, ever sat in a room, silent, and felt the temperature shift? Not the air conditioning, not the weather, something else. A sudden tension, an awkward pause, a glance that lingers too long, a smile that doesn't quite reach the eyes. You didn't speak, you didn't move, you were just there, still, calm, whole, and yet someone became strangely defensive. Another went cold. One laughed a little too loud, a little too fake. You start asking yourself, did I do something wrong? Number you didn't. You just existed. But your existence, anchored, aware, quiet, spoke volumes. Your energy whispered what your mouth didn't. I see you, and that terrifies people who are hiding. See, most people build masks to survive. They curate personalities, tell half-truths, rehearse their every move just to fit in. They decorate cages and call them lives. But you, just sitting there, unmoved, unswayed, mirror back what they're trying to escape. Your silence becomes a spotlight, your peace a provocation, your wholeness a threat. Carl Jung once said that the unconscious is always communicating, quietly, persistently, truthfully. Your calm presence, it pulls their unrest to the surface. Your authenticity, it makes their performance feel hollow. You don't even have to say a word. Your being says it all. You don't need to speak the truth. You are the truth. And in a world addicted to denial, addicted to distraction, addicted to masks, that kind of presence is dangerous. Because when people have spent their entire lives building walls, it's not your words that scare them. It's the way you walk right through without touching a single brick. 6. You can't stand fake personas. You hear it in the voice. That slight tremble beneath the cheeriness, the rehearsed enthusiasm, the too perfect tone. You feel it in the posture. Stiff shoulders, arms folded a little too tight. The kind of stance that screams, I'm fine, while the soul whispers, I'm scared. You see it in the eyes, darting, avoiding, hollow, looking at you, but not seeing you. Because to truly see you would mean risking being seen in return. It irritates you, not in a judgmental way, but in a visceral way, a kind of psychic static in your body, like your nervous system is allergic to the performance. Because you know, not from ego, but from experience. You've walked through your own shadows, sat in your own chaos, made peace with your own contradictions. You've done the work. And once someone becomes psychologically whole, once they integrate the light and the dark, the persona and the shadow, they develop a kind of inner radar. A radar for fragmentation, for pretense, for people pretending to be okay when they're unraveling inside. So when someone's faking it, putting on confidence like it's a costume, laughing too loudly, flexing their intellect, quoting other people's wisdom without living it, your energy becomes a mirror, a quiet unspoken message. Drop the act. I see you. And that makes people squirm. Not because you attacked them, but because your presence disarms them. It's hard to lie to someone who isn't lying to themselves. So they flinch. They get uncomfortable. They shift in their seat, look at their phone, change the topic, call you intense, too serious, too much. But that's just projection. Because in truth, you are not too much. You're just whole. And wholeness makes people who are still wearing masks feel naked. 7. You make people doubt themselves. You ask the question no one else will. You challenge what's accepted. You don't play along just because it's popular. And in your presence, people falter. They second-guess their words, justify their beliefs, stumble through their confidence. Why? Because your clarity is psychic gravity. It warps the field around you. It brings everything into sharp relief. Jung said that the truly self-awareness threatens the collective, not with rebellion, but with alignment. Your calmness reveals their chaos. Your groundedness reveals their drift. You don't push, you don't provoke, you just are. And that's enough to make the whole room shift. 8. People open up, then disappear. They poured their soul into you. They said, "No one's ever understood me like this." They felt safe, seen, alive. And then they ghosted. What happened? You became too real. Jung believed that true connection awakens the unconscious. And the unconscious? It's where pain, trauma, and truth live. When someone feels truly seen, it activates parts of them they've buried. That moment with you? It wasn't just a conversation. It was a mirror, a doorway, and they weren't ready, so they ran. Not because you did something wrong, but because they weren't ready to do something right. 9. Authority figures feel threatened. You don't grovel, you don't kiss up, you respect people, but you don't worship titles, and that alone is dangerous. Because most authority is fragile. It relies on being seen as more than, but you don't play that game. You see people, not positions. So the insecure leader, they'll bristle, they'll feel exposed, they'll find reasons to undermine you. Jung would say, your authenticity stripped their mask, and without the mask, they feel powerless. You didn't rebel, you didn't disobey, you simply didn't submit to the illusion. And that makes you quietly powerful. Final words. So what now? If you've seen yourself in these signs, here's what you need to remember. You are not too much. You are not broken. You are not the problem. If this spoke to you, share it with someone who's felt the same. Because silent warriors need to know they are not alone.